Imagine someone bombing your home, killing your family, and then offering Band-Aid. Would you take it? Hamas has turned away truckfuls of medical aid sent by the Israeli government hours after Israeli gunfire killed 60 Palestinians. Israel says Hamas is sacrificing the safety of its people by turning away much-needed help. Meanwhile, those reporting this conflict are dealing not just with difficult questions about which side is at fault, they're literally caught in the crossfire. WION's Daniele Pagani was hit by rubber bullets as he filed this report for us.
Palestinians are on a general strike to protest against the killing of 60 people, shot dead by Israeli snipers during the Great Return March. In Ramallah, the de facto administrative capital of the West Bank, the roads wear a deserted look.
In order to mourn what is worldwide known as the Nakba, the catastrophe, the moment when Palestinians were kicked out of their land from the advance of the Israeli army, all Palestinian political parties and organizations and the people of the Palestinian territories declared a day of strike, and the strike became huge after in Gaza nearly 60 people protesting were killed by Israeli defense forces. I am currently in Ramallah. As you can see on the street behind me, all shops are closed. There is literally no commercial activity and there is no open business taking place today. Palestinians are protesting in several focal points, not only of the city of Ramallah, but all around the Palestinian territories. They are protesting also because the United States decided unilaterally to shift the embassy from Tel Aviv to the wholly contested city of Jerusalem, which also Palestinians consider to be their capital city by right.
Protesters can be seen gathering near checkpoints and Israeli military premises. Palestinians, irrespective of their age, are taking part in the protest. They are not afraid of the heavily armed Israeli soldiers.
لأنه أنا بدافع عن إشي حقي.
Because we're defending our right. This is our right.
إيش يعني أموت بستشهد؟ امبارح استشهد 61 بني آدم في غزة.
What is it like to die? Yesterday only 60 people died in Gaza. They were killed in cold blood.
More than 100 people died during the Great March of Return demonstration, and Palestinians are feeling left out by the world.
Not even one country has moved a finger.
Why?
ليش?
أنا هلا بدي أسألك.
And this is my question to you. Why?
Palestinians have been burning tires to protect themselves, and they use slings and stones to target Israeli soldiers walking down the Beit Il Hill. Security forces have been responding with extremely powerful tear gas, rubber bullets and live ammunitions. Right before the Israeli charge, protesters start retreating and we reach a temporarily safe spot.
Israeli defense forces are now charging the demonstrators and the tear gas is reaching the demonstrators. Is very hard to breathe.
But it is not the end. Palestinians have been taken to the street to make their voice heard for decades. They calmly regroup and go back to the first line. Ambulances are ready to treat those injured. And it is not only the Gaza massacre that is bringing Palestinians on the street. To add fuel to the fire, the United States unilaterally decided to recognize Jerusalem as the capital city of Israel. But this is not what Palestinians think.
And we say to everyone that Jerusalem is the capital of Palestine, the eternal capital of Palestine. And Jerusalem is Arab and will always remain Arab.
The situation is getting tense with each passing hour. All the checkpoints between Palestinian territories and Israel resemble conflict zones, and the situation risks escalating in the coming days and reach a point of no return.
Here in the city of Ramallah, Israeli forces are currently charging the Palestinians protesting. Daniele Pagani from Ramallah for WION.
As violence spirals and people continue to die, the global response to this crisis can be summed up in 4 words: too little, too late. Let me explain with an example. Just a few months ago, a Russian spy was poisoned in England. The furor it caused was immense and with good reason. Major Western countries united in their condemnation of Russia. 27 countries expelled Russian diplomats. But what did they do when 60 Palestinians were killed? One country, Turkey, expelled the Israeli ambassador. A few others called for an investigation. Listen in to the response of British Prime Minister Theresa May.
Palestinians have the right to protest, but these protests must be peaceful. We are concerned that extremist elements are seeking to hijack legitimate protests to further their own objectives. And while we do not question the right of Israel to defend its borders, the use of live fire and the resulting loss of life is deeply troubling. We urge Israel to show restraint.
A humble request from the British Prime Minister there to the Israeli Defence Forces. She made the comment while addressing a joint press conference with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who is on a 3-day visit to Britain. Turkey is the only country, as I just told you, which has taken any concrete step to register its protest against Israel.
Şehit olan tüm Filistinli kardeşlerime Allah'tan rahmet, yaralılara acil şifalar diliyorum. Bu vahşeti bir kez de sizlerin huzurunda lanetliyorum. Fakat bir gerçeğin de altını burada özellikle çizmek istiyorum. Sene 1948.
Washington, meanwhile, has chosen to stand by its ally Israel. There is no question whatsoever of America taking any responsibility for this flare-up, of course. Remember, what triggered it was Donald Trump's decision to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Now, top American diplomats are busy blaming Hamas and defending Israel.
My colleagues here in the Security Council, who among us would accept this type of activity on your border? No one would. No country in this chamber would act with more restraint than Israel has. In fact, the records of several countries here today suggest they would be much less restrained.
The U.S. Defense Secretary went a step further, saying that all the facts of this case are not clear yet.
Hamas to blame for the violence yesterday in Gaza, and the Israelis military handled that situation appropriately.
I'd prefer not to address that issue right now until we've had all the facts in.
The Palestinian protesters are up against a heavily equipped military. Kites that go up in flames against mortar shells. Stones hurled from one side, inviting sniper bullets from the other. These are some of the facts that James Mattis is either oblivious to or chooses not to see. As the strip of land between Israel and Gaza burns, Pope Francis, for one, had a word of caution not just for the warring sides, but also the onlookers.
I'm very worried and sad by the escalation of tensions in the Holy Land, in the Middle East, and by the spiral of violence that is increasingly creating distances on the path of peace and negotiations. I express my great pain for the dead and wounded. I repeat that the use of violence never leads to peace. War begets war, and violence begets violence.
While we question Israel's use of excessive force, we also ask what's driving the protesters on the Gazan side. Where is the money and the limited firepower coming from? Is the move of an embassy such a big deal that dozens of protesters are ready to face bullets? Is there a foreign hand in fomenting this crisis? Is it Iranian? Israel's bête noire, its worst enemy, is Iran. That is no secret. Iran's foreign minister, Mohammad Javad Zarif, took to Twitter to say, and I'm quoting now, Israeli regime massacres countless Palestinians in cold blood as they protest the world's largest open-air prison. Meanwhile, Trump celebrates the move of the U.S. embassy, illegal embassy, and his Arab collaborators move to divert attention. And diplomatic outrage is not Tehran's only contribution to this crisis. Israeli defense forces and other security agencies have hinted at a greater role being played by Iran in the deadly protests that have swept the Gaza border. The IDF chief, the chief of staff of the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, Lieutenant General Gadi Eisenkot, claimed that Tehran has increased its funding to Hamas and Islamic Jihad. Earlier, they paid an estimated $70 million annually. Now that figure has gone up to $100 million. Remember, ties between Iran and Hamas have thawed only now after almost a decade and a half of a lull. When the Syrian war began in 2011, differences between Iran and Hamas were at their peak. Hamas refused to back the Assad rule in Syria. Iran was defending the same rule. Hamas backed the Sunnis in Syria who wanted to topple Bashar al-Assad. Iran is a Shia nation. They were natural opponents. Iran stopped funding to Hamas. It hit them where it hurt the most. Israel's economic blockade was already bleeding Hamas. Iran's action further worsened its condition. But then Hamas saw a leadership change, ties improved, and now they're both fighting a common enemy, that is Israel. That perhaps is the only thing that is binding these two sides. It's an unusual alliance, Iran and Hamas. Hamas is a predominantly Sunni group. Iran is a largely Shiite nation. Tehran is looking to gain influence in this region, and part of the plan is the militarization of Lebanese group Hezbollah, which it has been doing for years now, making inroads in the troubled territories of Syria, and now the funding of Hamas in Gaza. Tehran has set its eyes on destabilizing Israel under the leadership of Benjamin Netanyahu, and with ample help from the US, Israel has also forged close ties with Sunni countries in the Gulf. It's a textbook example of my enemy's enemy is my friend. India's junior Minister for External Affairs, General V.K. Singh, has visited North Korea. He held talks. This is the highest level ministerial visit from New Delhi to Pyongyang since 1998, the first of its kind in 20 years. What was he doing there? The minister was in Pyongyang ostensibly along with India's new ambassador Atul Gotsarve, who formally presented his credentials to the North Korean parliamentary chief Kim Yong-nam. The official version is this. The minister held discussions with the vice president of the Presidium of the Supreme People's Assembly, Kim Yong-dae, Minister of Culture, among others. The two sides exchanged views on a range of issues, including education, agriculture, and traditional medicine. The Indian minister was also briefed about the developments on the Korean peninsula, and his presence in the North Korean capital interestingly coincided with reports that the much-hyped North Korea-US summit could collapse if it was centered on the North giving up its nuclear weapons. The question then is, what was Mr. Singh, General Singh, doing in North Korea at this point in time? Why did the presenting of credentials of an ambassador need a visit, a ministerial visit no less? Was General Singh in Pyongyang to convey a message? If so, on behalf of whom or which country? Could it be that the US, since it has been evident that Washington is keen to engage with every section of the North Korean elite ahead of the Kim-Trump talks next month? We do not know for sure, but this is the buzz surrounding the visit of Indian Minister General V.K. Singh, the first of its kind, as I said, in 20 years. North Korea, meanwhile, has threatened the Trump-Kim summit, which is expected next month. North Korea saying that it may collapse. The warning came as the US and South Korea held Air Force exercises. Is there some other message that the mercurial Kim Jong-un is signaling at? Our next report takes a look.
The apparent trigger was a week-long Air Force exercise involving the United States and South Korea.
The United States will have to undertake careful deliberations about the fate of the planned North Korea-US summit in the light of this provocative military ruckus jointly conducted with the South Korean authorities.
The North Korean statement was a double whammy. Earlier, the North had suspended the high-level official talks due to be held on Wednesday.
It is regrettable that North Korea has decided to unilaterally postpone a ministerial-level inter-Korean talks. It cited an annual joint air drill between South Korea and the United States for the postponement. The postponement decision came right after they proposed the meeting date. It is not in line with the spirit of the Panmunjom Declaration, signed on April 27th.
The South had reason to be puzzled as Kim Jong-un had only a few days ago indicated he understood why the US and South Korea held joint military exercises. The hint was he would not object, but how does one explain this turnaround? The pundits on the peninsula suspect Kim may be opening his cards on the US demand for unilateral denuclearization. that the North will not dismantle its nuclear weapons, which are seen as crucial to regime's survival. He probably wanted to forewarn Trump on what to expect when he sits down with Kim in June. The United States responded cautiously, saying it had not heard anything from Seoul or Pyongyang and was proceeding according to the plan. There's over a month to go before the summit, and Washington and Seoul will be praying nothing happens in the interim to worsen or upset matters. But Kim may be pushing for some understanding on his nuclear weapons before the summit. Otherwise, the summit could end up hostage to his nukes, which could trigger a walkout by Trump and back to square one and sanctions for Kim. Bureau Report, Beyond.
So what does the Mercurial rocket man want? Clearly he wants to help to keep his nuclear weapons. His refusal to spell out his views on denuclearization so far may have been deliberate, intended to reap the harvest of goodwill generated by his decision to stop nuclear testing, at least for the moment. Now, Rocketman Kim is apparently willing to play. Fittingly, he began in the site where he's so far conducted 6 nuclear tests. Satellite images of the Punggye-ri test site in the eastern part of the country show some dismantling work in progress, but this has not been extended to the nuclear reactor and uranium enrichment facility in Yongbyon, or the missile factory at the military base in the Gwangi province. The 2 missile factories in Pyongyang region and 3 other factories in Changgang province. Finally, the missile facilities in Hamgyong province. The US is clear about what it wants. A point reiterated by National Security Advisor John Bolton, who said, and I quote, "What ports should American freighters sail into and air bases should American cargo planes land at so that we can dismantle your nuclear weapons program, put it in those planes and boats and sail it back to America to put it at Oak Ridge, Tennessee." What was he talking about? Bolton was referring to the Libyan model. The terms and conditions under which, in 2003 and 2004, Libya was stripped of its nuclear material, equipment and uranium in return for sanctions being eased. Kim may want something more tangible from the US, though, such as the withdrawal of all American forces from South Korea and a nuclear guarantee. Exactly what nuclear guarantee means is not clear. Maybe a promise that his regime will not be targeted, its survival is guaranteed, an end to all the sanctions and so on. This is all, of course, informed speculation. North Korea has many advantages. Unlike Libya, its nuclear weapons program is more advanced. It has developed and demonstrated its weapons, including those that can reach the US. Kim will also ensure any denuclearization is phased out with access to sites controlled by him. A deal on denuclearization could start with a moratorium on further tests, which Kim announced last month. It could be followed by a freeze on the production of nuclear materials and the rollback of warhead stocks. This was roughly the experience with the Libyan model. Let's see what shapes the North Korean model and what shape it could be prepared for. Anything, even a complete reversal of what we've seen so far. And now to the political potboiler in the southern Indian state of Karnataka. A day after the state threw up a fractured mandate, political frenzy is at its peak. It was a day full of activity outside the governor's house in the capital Bengaluru. All parties lay siege to the Raj Bhavan, hoping the governor will rule in their favour. After all of them failed to gain a clear majority in this election. The governor has ruled in favour of the Bharatiya Janata Party. It has invited it to form a government in the state. Party leader B.S. Yediyurappa will be sworn in as Chief Minister on Thursday. The Congress and the Janata Dal Secular have objected to the governor's invitation, citing Manipur and Goa as examples where the BJP led a coalition and was invited to form the government despite it not being the single largest party. For the moment, this is how things stand, and we'll have to wait and see if Congress and JDS go to court, as they threatened to do earlier today, if they were not invited to form a government. Meanwhile, political twists in Malaysia as well. Former Deputy Prime Minister of the country, Anwar Ibrahim, walked out of jail after receiving a royal pardon today. The leader, whose political career was once said to have finished in a scandal, has virtually risen from the ashes. It marks yet another turn in the Southeast Asian country's political story. Here's a report.
Anwar Ibrahim is out of jail and back in the spotlight after 3 years. Life has come full circle for this bespectacled leader as he prepares to possibly steer Malaysia once again on the path of reform.
Now, there is a new dawn for Malaysia. I must thank the people of Malaysia. Malays, Chinese, Indians, Kadazan, Iban, the entire spectrum of Malaysians, regardless of race and religion, who stood by the principles of democracy and freedom. They demand change, and it is our duty now to ensure that this mandate given to Pakatan Harapan would honor this commitment.
Ibrahim's freedom comes at the end of a week of change marked by the stunning return to power of 92-year-old Mahathir Mohamad. On Thursday, Ibrahim watched Mohamad take oath from inside the hospital where he was recuperating after a recent surgery. Within a week, he has been pardoned by King Mohammed V, has been freed and is now set to return to active politics. On Wednesday, he thanked Mahathir Mohamad for facilitating the royal pardon. He trashed the sodomy charges for which he was jailed.
In my case, we appealed because there was a miscarriage of justice. We appealed because there was travesty of justice. We appealed because there was clear conspiracy to condemn me, assassinate my political character. And I praise to Allah because the king accepted this.
Malaysia has witnessed its most dramatic turn of political events in 6 decades. An opposition alliance led by Mahathir Mohamad defeated the Barisan Nasional coalition, which has been ruling the country since 1957. Soon after his election win, Mahathir Mohamad has taken a series of steps to change the political script in this Southeast Asian country. Former Prime Minister Najib Razak, who is accused of presiding over a multi-million-dollar corruption case, has been barred from leaving the country pending investigation. The Attorney General, who had cleared him of graft charges 2 years ago, has been told to go on leave. And now the former Deputy Prime Minister has been pardoned of sodomy charges and may just be brought back to the helm. Mahathir Mohamad had sacked Ibrahim as his deputy in 1998. He was later jailed on sodomy and graft charges till 2004. He faced his second sodomy charge and conviction under Najib Razak's tenure as Prime Minister in 2015. Now, with the Barisan Nasional out of power, these three players have changed places in the political chessboard of Malaysia. 3 years ago, the 70-year-old Ibrahim's political career seemed finished. Now, he's back, and another of Mahathir Mohamad's protégés, Najib Razak, is out in the political wilderness. Bureau Report, WION.
The royal wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle is just 3 days away. It promises to pack a lot of pomp and grandeur. Here's a slice of the frenzy surrounding the big day in Britain.
Love them or hate them, anyone visiting Windsor this week won't be able to escape Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's faces, which are emblazoned on merchandise in shops across the town. Wedding-themed magnets, mugs, and even Marmite jars are just some of the items that adorn the aisles and windows of gift shops and high street stores.
So we have special commemorative Harry and Meghan flags that have been really popular in the store. We've got all the party wear for street parties that have been really popular. The Harry and Meghan shopper bags, and these are Harry and Meghan teddy bears with the special jumpers on them.
Royal wedding spectators have started camping out on the streets of Windsor in anticipation to get the best view.
I really love Diana, and I've wanted to be here for every milestone in our son's lives, and this is one of the biggest moments in Harry's life, and I wanted to have a prime position to see him coming past happy with his bride, and I just can't wait.
Tourists from around the world are in Windsor ahead of the royal wedding.
We're all the way up from Mumbai, India, and In fact, my parents came up for Charles and Princess Diana's wedding way back in '81.
He was just 2.
I was only 2 years old. And we followed them ever since, and we thought, what better time to come up for them? This the wedding.
The British aren't the only ones excited for the big day. Students at the Los Angeles school attended by Meghan Markle celebrated her upcoming wedding with lemonade, flags, fascinators and a choreographed dance routine.
To know that I have a fellow sister who's going into the royal family, who's an advocate for women's rights, it really shows that what we learn here really does carry out into the real world, and so I'm very happy about that.
Just the fact that she's done so many great things in our world, and that now she's marrying Prince Harry. I mean, marrying a prince from a different country and she's not royal, and it's like such an honor to do that.
And how can Hollywood be far behind? After all, Meghan Markle is a well-known American actress. Well-wishers and royal wedding fans descended on Hollywood Boulevard in Los Angeles to write good luck messages in a giant card. As the excitement grows, fans are waiting with bated breath to witness an event which is expected to put a modern twist in an age-old tradition. Bureau Report, WION.
Nature's wrath is being witnessed across the globe in the last few weeks. The world's most active volcano, Kilauea in Hawaii, has been spewing lava for over a week now, and reports say that it is expected to get worse. Nearly 20 fissures have opened since the Kilauea volcano erupted. The eruption has destroyed about 24 homes on the Big Island. 2,000 people have been asked to relocate. Dangerous levels of sulfur dioxide gas and other emissions prompted state health officials to urge residents to stay indoors or leave the eastern end of Hawaii's Big Island. As molten lava continues to flow down the Kilauea volcano, many on Hawaii's Big Island are looking to the ancient volcano goddess Pele for protection. She's the ancient fire goddess who, according to the residents, lives in the crater at the top of this volcano and is revered as the creator of Hawaii's landscape. In another part of the U.S., severe weather conditions claimed 2 lives. Severe storm ravaged parts of northeast and mid-Atlantic regions. Frequent lightning strikes, blinding downpours and isolated flash flooding was witnessed in several areas. The Weather Department has issued a warning for the next few days as well. In India, a powerful dust storm hit the national capital region in the wee hours of Wednesday morning. Strong winds uprooted trees, disrupted power supply. There have been no reports of casualties, thankfully. The Indian Met Department has issued a thunderstorm warning for the next 48 to 72 hours. Global warming clearly is changing lives and landscapes, and what you just saw could be in part be driven by that.